Hello, and welcome to my first video tutorial. Here I'm going to be showing you what I do to draw one of those characters like that there. Those two I tried to actually record, but I screwed up with the video, so the files were corrupted. But to start with what I'm doing here, I just have a normal layer, and I'm using black with my pen ink brush tool. It's basically just a hard round brush, so I would just suggest using that with a pressure sensitivity set to size scaling. So I'm just trying to figure out what I want for a face here. I usually start small, so don't be afraid to use the adjustment tools to scale things how you want. If you have a tool here, you might as well use it. Oh, and I should mention this video is sped up to about 2.5 times speed, so I don't actually work this quickly. It's a lot slower, and a lot of redoing lines over and over, especially at the start. It takes a little bit to warm up with inking, and I suggest if you're new to it, to do a really rough underdrawing and then ink over that, because it'll steady your hand a little bit. It'll give you something that you know you're going to be working from rather than just inking from the start. It's always hard for me to decide where someone should be looking with their eyes. If I haven't decided on a composition beforehand. And if you don't know the hotkeys here, you might see them switching back and forth between the eraser and the brush. It's good to be able to do this with a hotkey, because you'll probably be doing it a lot if you're doing any sort of digital art. So if you want to do that, then you just hit B for brush and E for eraser. It's pretty easy to remember. At this point, I'm trying to come up with a hairstyle that I like. I knew I didn't want to do something normal at this point, so I was sort of just trying to work with different ideas to see what might fit the character that I'm trying to envision. And that shaved side of her head just wasn't working out, so tried a sort of short chopped sort of look instead. But honestly, the inking process takes up more of this character design process than anything else, because that's where I'm really deciding on who the character is, what they're wearing, what their expression is. So it's really the most important part of the process. And sometimes you have to redo a stroke 4 times. Also, just as a suggestion, it's quite often helpful to work on a new layer when you're not sure about a change you're doing. And if you're 100% sure you want something in there, then go ahead, just put it on the layer you're working on. But If you're just not sure and you don't want to ruin it, then why risk it? It's only one more layer, and that's what you say at the start, but then it ends up being 100 layers. But and then if you need to go back to it, you just merge them down. That's what I just did there. Some people insist on organizing their layers. They think it, like, I don't know, makes it so you don't get lost or something. They're probably right, but I don't. I mean, until I'm really done with something. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what to talk about at the moment because almost all the information is visual. I mean, just more and more of dragging pen marks across the screen. I guess I should mention I'm using Photoshop CS6, but that doesn't really matter. I mean, if you have some version of Photoshop or some digital thing and then you have a Wacom tablet, then it should be the same. Okay, so what I just did there is I just dropped in a new layer and I set its layer style to multiply. That way, I mean, anything that I draw over on a multiply layer will be well, it darkened over whatever's already there. So that way you can draw over your line work, but the line work will still appear because it's the darkest thing on the screen. So I believe that I continue just on this layer for a while, and eventually I might actually make a multiply group instead. I mean, when you make a group, you can set styles just like on layers. So if you have a multiply group, everything in that will act like it's a single multiply layer. And so I drop in a base tone when I'm working on a character's skin tone that'll be sort of the underlying slash shadow color. And then I like to build highlights on top of that. Sometimes I'll work the reverse, but it just feels more natural to work into the light from darkness than it does the other way for me. I don't know. One of those preference things. At this point I didn't like the shape of her chin, so I decided to sort of change it with the lighting. You can do a lot to change what the line work looks like through just adjusting what the actual painting layers look like. At this stage, the skin tone often looks pretty unnatural, and that's because I usually just have one dark color, that's my shadow color, and then the highlight color. Well, not highlight, but you know what I mean, the light color. And it doesn't have any of the dynamic sort of blush or greenish undertones or any of that the skin has, because I mean, skin's very multicolored. So after I have the basic lighting down, that's when I'll start adding in blush glow, which I think is what I'm doing now. And for how I like to work, I usually, for anything like blush, unless I'm really going for a very pale sort of character, I find it's nicer to go overboard with color and draw back than it is to be too careful about it. Now I just got rid of some of the gray on her chin because gray tends to look like stubble on the chin, and you kind of want to avoid that for female characters. I'm still deciding what I want to do with the hair, because I kind of at this point liked the just monochrome pinkish reds hairstyle, but I knew I had to do something different for this character, because with a hairstyle that unnatural, you really can't just leave it a natural color. So I mean, as I'm working, now it is in a multiply group, like I said. They're all normal layers in a multiply group. But I keep popping in a new layer when I'm not sure about something. And I thought this orange would be a good idea, and it wasn't. So I dropped the opacity because I wanted to keep some of it for some reason. And you know, I really don't know why. For some reason I was attached to it. Oh, that was a little weird. There I just used a hue saturation layer. You can find them in that little weird circle down there that on the bottom of the layers pane. If you open that up, you click on hue saturation, then you can use that to shift the hues of the entire image. It's a layer that you can adjust things with. But I shifted it till I saw a color I liked on the hair, and then I merged that down onto the hair layer, so it would only affect that. I don't know, it might be something useful to do, it might be confusing, it might just be stupid, but it worked for me, so I kept it. After I had the hair color there, I just started a new layer over the multiply group. So this one's just a normal layer that's painting over both the multiply colors and the line work. So that way I can adjust things, like you can see I put the highlights over the line work on the eyes. That way it sort of gives it more life than if you were just stuck with the perfectly black lines everywhere. It helps to make you be able to work over the hair and all that. So now I'm just testing all the layers, 'cause I think there was a splotch somewhere. But in some things, like the eyes shape, bugged me at this point, so it's time to rework details like that you couldn't with just the multiply, and you didn't realize were problems at the time you were inking it. Now adding a little earring for character. See, that's where you can add details like this that you didn't really think about in the first place. You also can soften the edges of lines by adding backlighting and all sorts of good effects like that. And this is where I'm really just wrapping things up. You see me adding extra hairs and all that. It's because I'm pretty happy with how this character went, and it's about the time limit that I wanted to set for doing it. So, thank you for watching this video, and if you have any questions or anything you'd like to see done, or a tutorial or anything, then just put something in the comments. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.